Welcome to the PropTech Podcast. It's Kylie Davis here, and I'm delighted to be your host as we explore the brave new world where technology and real estate collide. I passionately believe we need to create and grow a sense of community between the innovators and real estate agents, and sharing our stories is a great way to do that, especially in these crazy times that we find ourselves in. Now, the aim of each episode is to introduce listeners to a PropTech innovator who is pushing the boundaries of what's possible and explore the issues and challenges raised by the tech and how they can create amazing property experiences. My guest in this episode is Kasey McDonald from the Property Management Training Academy, PMTA, which specialises in training property managers on embracing new technology and improving the processes and practices of PMs, and working with principals especially to understand the value of their PM divisions and how much more they could be bringing into their businesses. And this is really important because we know that property management is actually the subscription revenue that keeps businesses afloat in real estate, and also that it's one of the primary drivers of the value of a business when it comes to sale time. Now, this is a really insightful conversation with a few really lovely laughs that looks at why property management is an undervalued asset in so many real estate businesses. And we look at how to change that and the influence that coronavirus has had on the technology adoption conversation. And you might be surprised. Because kind of frighteningly, Kasey believes there's a hardcore group of principals out there that are still not convinced about the benefits of cloud-based technology. So we talk through how that's likely to play out for the industry and how over the next few years we're going to see the gap grow between highly successful PM businesses and the tech laggards. So, the wonderful Kasey McDonald, welcome to the PropTech Podcast.
Think you for having me, Kylie. It's lovely to actually see your beautiful face.
It's fun, isn't it? These interviews are actually some of the highlights of my day, because I do find that I manage to I can have days where I sit at my desk for a good 10 hours or more, and feel like I'm growing a chair out my butt, but.
Like all of us, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm my best friend.
Yeah. So Kasey, what's the elevator pitch of PMTA?
Yeah, PMTA is a consulting company, and I started this approximately 5 years ago. And it was really to look at the operational efficiencies and streamlining process and procedures in property management divisions. But going, I suppose, to a higher scale of that, it's looking at how principals can have a better understanding of how their property management divisions are operating at the grassroots, but also from a bottom line profitability perspective. A lot don't have that understanding and aren't sure how they should be breaking it up from a different profit centre point of view. So I like to work with the property managers from a grassroots perspective and really help them be more efficient and productive in their positions. And then on the flip side, work with the principals so that they're understanding the real value and importance of their property management team.
So let's unpack that a little bit. What are the key reasons that principals don't understand property management? Like, what's the issue around that?
And it's a great question, because there are definitely several. Probably the key one, which is fairly common, is that they've been a very successful salesperson, and then they've decided to branch out and have their own real estate agency. They're still very successful in selling real estate, but then understand that sales is not going to pay the bills for them. So they start a property management arm. They've got a great database. Why not, right? They're sick of handing over those leads. So they start. But the concern is that they don't understand it or have never done it. So they put a property manager in, and they just say, okay, that's your little baby now, you just do it. And they focus on what they know best. They then continue that trend, unfortunately, and allowing the team really to operate, I suppose, at free will and autonomously, and maybe not give them the support or guidance that in some cases property managers actually do need, and it's that they need that leadership there, but they sort of don't, I suppose, respect the leader sometimes if that leader doesn't understand maybe what they're doing or what their day-to-day challenges are, right, and concerns are. So it's definitely a big thing, salespeople opening real estate businesses and then having a property management arm. The second would be is that I sort of touched on it on the last point, is that they're not spending the time in their departments. So regardless of their experience, they're not seeing sometimes that real true value that property management, division can really bring to their business, and that it's an asset to them, right?
Yeah.
So I think they understand that it's an asset, but they sometimes don't understand that it could be an even better asset if it was operating really well. So spending time with their team, going to training with the team, just having a basic level of understanding of what they do every day, I think would be, have far greater impact in their business. So they're definitely the two key elements that I see don't happen very often, and I just really think that they should.
Yeah. So let's summarize that. It's kind of like an principals starting up a property management division because they know they should have one, but really abdicating responsibility around that because they don't understand it, and letting it just kind of grow organically, and then ignoring it because they feel like they don't really know what's going on, and then it really not being the asset that it could be. Yeah. We see that a lot, don't we? So tell us a little bit about your history in property management.
Yeah,
what got you into training?
So 21 years in property management, or in the industry.
Did you start at like 12?
I'm 40 this year. So I started when I had just left school, and I actually started in Darwin. So I'm originally from the Gold Coast, or northern New South Wales, Kingscliff, Tweed Heads area. Mm-hmm. And my dad's in the construction game. So we had an opportunity to relocate to Darwin, and that's where my career started in real estate. Some great opportunities up there. So I kind of, just dived straight in. But thrown in the corner, like some of us have experience throughout our careers, and it's kind of like there's a desk and a computer and away you go. Don't you know what you're doing? No, I actually don't, but I'll figure it out, right? So there was just, that's how my career started. But I just really had a passion for it. I enjoyed the diversity of it every day, and different conversations and meeting different people and all of those things. And that started to develop then into a more consulting role, where I got sort of into some training and doing some PM conferencing events for a company. And then from that, I decided to progress and have my own agency. I did have a very small sales team of 4, but the sole focus of my business was property management. That was my experience. So I organically grew that to 227 in 3 years. So I know not huge numbers, but, I really wanted to do it right and make sure everything was set up correctly. And then from that, there was just elements where I really felt I could keep supporting the industry. So I started at the end of owning the business of the agency and doing some consulting in conjunction with Tara Bradbury, as we know, from the BDM Academy, and was doing some growth stuff with her. And it just, I suppose it sort of pushed me into it a little bit more, because that's really my passion. That training, education, that side of it really sort of stood out for me. So that's why I dived back in, and here I am sort of five years later.
Because, look, it is one of those areas where training is enormously helpful, and because there's so much legislation that property managers are working under, and if they have been ignored, when you do give them some love and show them some attention and show them different ways of doing things, I've always found they're really quite receptive and excited by what's going on. So let's talk about COVID-19 and how that's playing out in property management. What are you seeing? What have property managers been experiencing?
Yeah, I think across all states, maybe in the initial phases, it was the lack of clarity, obviously, from government, and a lot of communication, a lot of misinformation out there. So it was creating more confusion. And, that in turn was then creating even more challenges, because you then have landlords and tenants making contact with you that may have not contacted you in a long time. So the types of telephone calls and emails and that dialogue was very, very different. So because we didn't have clarity across the industry as a whole, I think in some aspects, the conversations would then be, that's what the challenge was, well, I don't know really how to answer your question because I can't, right? I don't have this from the government. So I think now that there definitely is clear clarity for everyone across all of the states, and they've really built that into legislation now. I'm starting to see that slowdown of them coming up with those difficult conversations or calling me saying, Kasey, I've got this and I just don't know how to answer it. And to be quite honest, I was in the same position saying, well, I can't give you the answer either because we're all in the same position right now. Yep. But maybe if we look at it like this, and just offer some kind of guidance or direct the tenant in this way. So that's the type of challenges I think the industry was really facing, and which now we've overcome slightly. I think we're on the little rise of it now that everyone's made the legislation quite clear.
We've kind of bottomed out a little bit, it feels like, doesn't it? It feels like we can at least breathe again. But that's really interesting, isn't it? Because property managers typically have an extraordinarily busy their job is extraordinarily busy already with communication because they are that kind of bottleneck of where all communication needs to go. And then you add X number of additional communications every day because you've got something like COVID. What's it been like in terms of stress and how the industry's kind of coped with that?
I'm seeing a vast variety of differences with the clients that I'm dealing with around stress and pressure. Some of it relates to the fact that they haven't adapted or embraced technology. So they didn't do that at the beginning phase. So prior even to COVID-19, they may not have made some of those tech changes that they may have researched, but maybe they sat on their hands and thought, we're okay and things are plodding along and it's all right, things are working. COVID-19 came in and they thought, wow, my gosh, we've got to really make a change now because there's things that we can't do.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It was like that, right? So they're calling me saying, well, Kasey, what software should we take on? Should we move to this cloud program? How can we do our inspections? Oh, my God, I've never done a walkthrough before. What do I do and how do I do it? So that was those types of challenges and stresses, pressure, which, of course, now is moving away because it's becoming the norm. The pressure and stress was a lot on how do we keep leasing these homes if we can't do open for inspections. So really out of the box thinking, but a lot of it did revolve around out of the box. Are you using technology? What tech are you using? Is it still going to be the right tech for you right now? How are you structured? Are your staff going to work from home? So I sort of created a list of all of those types of questions to work through with my clients to say, well, let's start with number one first. Let's work out what that solution is going to be before we move to question number two, just to help them through that because, there were principals who were very overwhelmed. What do we do? Yeah. Do we allow staff to work from home? Do we not? How do we keep them accountable? So you can imagine, I'd just get a phone call and it would be 10 questions all rolled into one. I'd go, well, let's slow down. Let's start back at your first.
Break it up.
Yeah. And I'm sure that everyone who's a trainer and consultant or even peers, I'm sure you've received calls from, people who certainly do absolutely respect what you do and say, Kylie, we'd love your advice. So some of that, it was that, and it has been that definitely for the last month. And, you're happy to support people, who, take on board your advice, and you really want to continue to support the industry as much as you can through this COVID-19. And I think we're over the hump now, as you said. We've kind of bottomed out. And we're now kind of getting back to normal business. And I am seeing that, my clients are now saying, well, Kasey, we haven't had anyone affected or even contact us about this side of it. So that's really great. So we're just continuing with business as normal. But it's been awesome. We implemented that technology you suggested because guess what? We've had our best leasing month we've ever had, So yeah, I think there's been some positives that have come out of this as much as it's been a negative. That's what I keep telling them. Focus on all of the great things. Focus on the really positive things you've changed in your business, the efficiency level of your team now, all of that.
Yeah. What do you think before COVID was in the property management industry was the level of adoption around cloud-based systems?
How? Good question, but it's a tricky question. Because
what I'm wanting to understand is, Did they swap over? Yeah. Have we seen a big uptake or move across? Or is the new normal, well, we've been avoiding changing for a really long time. We've been through this flurry of activity, but it seems to be, and we've added these kind of things on the top, but we can still keep doing it the way we've always done.
Yeah, look, I still do have clients, and I know of other businesses that are still using console, gateway, desktop program, server-based. Obviously, Console Cloud has now been out for several years. They're doing, great advancements in their program as well. But people are thinking that right now they didn't need to make that change. They've been able to set their business up that staff haven't needed to work from home. The office space is big enough. They can still separate for social distancing, right? So there's some that have adapted that. Some have not allowed staff to work from home, so changing software hasn't been a thing. So I don't know that it's actually forced some people to make and embrace the technology change, whereas others it certainly has. They've gone, you know what, I just think we need to do this, because if we don't, we've been sitting on our hands now for 12 months, 2 years. We've probably left it too late, but let's do it. But in my some of my conversations with the guys at Property Me, they're obviously still, selling, and they're still transitioning people over. But the decision, their information to me is that the decision timeframe has been slower than it has prior to COVID-19.
Interesting. And do we think that's because of what, that a pandemic is a bad time to try to change horses, or what's the...
I believe, or that's certainly my gut feeling as to why people haven't wanted to make the change, thinking, wow, there's different conversations happening now. Maybe we're busier than we were before. Even though we may have reduced things like routine inspection tasks, as in physically driving to properties and doing them, we're still maybe doing them, but we're just doing them virtually. But we're saving 15 minutes each inspection because we're not having to drive there. So but that 15 minutes is now taken up by 10 telephone calls from concerned landlords.
Because we have.
So we haven't saved time as such, but we just got to look at how more effective we can be utilising our time with COVID-19 in play. Yeah. So I think that's probably where they've gone, well, we really need to visit this and we need to see if it's an option for us. But right now, do we need to make the change with so much going on? My belief is that there will start to be a faster uptake now that things have bottomed out. We've got clear legislation. People are going to know how we need to handle it moving forward. I think that's when they'll go back and revisit again and say, right, what do we need to change now and effectively change? So maybe we can keep staff working from home. Maybe we don't need an office anymore.
As a real estate agent, you need to be doing more content marketing. But creating posts for social media, creating videos and reports is hard work, lots of hard work, and it takes time. So that's why you need HomePrezo. If you're a typical agent posting 1 or 2 social media posts a week, HomePrezo can save you between 75 to 100 hours a year. How many more properties could you sell if you had that time back? HomePrezo can help you create engaging, informative videos about how the property market in your local suburb is performing. Plus, it makes creating suburb reports, rental videos for landlords, and social media infographics an absolute piece of cake. If you can type in a suburb or type an address, you can create a Prezo using HomePrezo in just a few minutes. Listeners to the PropTech podcast receive a 14-day free trial. Now that's twice as long as the normal free trial. So go to homeprezo.com.au and click the sign up button and use the code PropTech to get your extended free trial, or click the link in our show notes. I'm always been fascinated by property management because it is the part of the real estate business where women congregate. Like it is predominantly a female-led section of our industry. And the ability to work from home as an employer, by allowing your people to work from home when they have to, seems to me to offer an enormous opportunity for the industry to expand and increase who it's employing and how it's employing people, and give them access to kind of better people who might be trying to juggle family responsibilities. What do you think around that?
Yeah, look, I totally agree. And I think that some of the changes that we've had to make or how we've had to embrace new tech and do things a different differently outside of that box, I suppose. I actually believe that moving forward it's going to remain the norm. You know, we've all sort of got maybe legislation that's been amended till December, or, you know, I definitely know that's Queensland till December. I'm not exactly sure in the other states. But, you know, if we think about it, you know, why now would we change? If what we get now as a new amendment works, and I'm not specifically talking about legislation, I'm talking about virtual routine inspections. I mean, I totally appreciate having been a property manager, that to go into a property and physically having that ear and eye and smell, touch, you know, all of those elements absolutely still plays a part. But doesn't mean that we need to be present inside of someone's walls 4 times a year. You know, I'm not sure. So I think it's going to be in case-by-case scenario, of course. But if we now have tech that can support us doing 360s, we can edit photos, we can do virtual inspections, you know, all of these elements come together. I think what it's going to bring back, and Kylie, I know that you've shared some great stats in workshops you and I have done together before around communication, right? And what really, I suppose, landlords, tenants, and even prospects in our industry think of us. But communication is rated really poorly, or even the way they think of us is rated really poorly. I think this is going to be the chance for us to shine now and say we can do things differently. And we don't need a pandemic in property management to prevent us from actually really managing your investment. We can make sure it still maintains its value. The tenants are still paying their rent. We can still get maintenance done. It just may be that we do it slightly different now, you know. But it means they can pick the phone up and have conversations. And that's what I think is going to be the best thing out of this. The service levels should absolutely increase.
Yeah, and look, that's a great point, isn't it? Because while you may have had sort of 10 landlords that you haven't spoken to for ages call you because of COVID, you probably have 100 landlords out there who are worried about the same things but just haven't had time themselves to call you. And so having a communication strategy that talks to everybody in your database around what you're doing and what's happening and what that means for you can really up that or amp up that level of care that people feel that you've got their backs.
Yeah, I think now is the time for us to really step up with that communication strategy and really sit down, you know, collectively as a team and go, well, what does it look like for us moving forward? And if we make amendments to our management authorities and present a new structure to our landlords and say, we now have this great tech and tools and resources. We've seen it works through a pandemic. Why can't it work moving forward? So we're going to do this and this now instead of just this. And I think that that's where different service levels will start to increase. You'll start to see potentially property managers and agencies fall away because others will just take this and you know, jump some leaps and bounds, and they will flourish with these changes and others won't. So we'll potentially see some rent rolls for sale, I think.
And I was really interested and slightly concerned about your comment before that there is this kind of a group of or a lump of agencies out there who are going, oh no, you know, we can leave the, you know, as long as the office is big enough, we can keep people here and we can hang on to some of these old practices and just do a few things on top to get us through. What's the future going to be like for those agencies going forward?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I wish I could actually have a crystal ball sometimes, but I think that what's going to become the norm is, you know, tenants who maybe in the past haven't been okay with completing an online application, and like let's just use that as one example. So there have been some tenants, regardless of age, and there's a barrier, have gone, I'm not filling in that form online. I don't want to do that, you know, for whatever reason. Now that's the only way that they can do it. So it's human nature that if we're given multiple options, of course, we're going to take what we believe is easiest for us, right?
Yep.
Now we're presenting, you know, 1 or 2 platforms and saying here online you've got one form or you've got tenant options, or maybe the business has built something in themselves. So there you go. 2 options, maybe 3. That's it, but they're all online. Choose which one. Oh, what? I can't fill in an application and come to your office? No, the office doesn't exist anymore. So there'll just be those types of things that if they may struggle with if they are in an area where their clientele have been so used to coming to their office from.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think too what we're going to see is a gap between low tech offices and high tech offices or higher tech offices going forward, and that gap will actually be the talent pool that want to work for them, because the best property managers are going to want to work for the agencies that have the best processes and technology in place that lets them focus on the work that's important and also manage their own lives the best.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we'll see a combination, as you said before. I think there will be a combination of that flexibility now that principals will see that by having those right elements in place, they've got the right tools and resources, they've got great processes, systems, all the staff are really working consistently. So saying to a team member, oh, well, you don't have to come to the office every day. Let's work out what that looks like. Maybe it's a Zoom meeting at 9 o'clock every morning and every team member must be involved, and maybe then it's a check-in at lunchtime, whatever the policies are. But I think it does allow for a little bit of extra balance across the industry in that regard. And you can, less distraction, you can possibly get more work done, therefore you're more productive, right? So I think we need to now look at some of these things as really positives for our industry.
Yeah, fantastic. So what's the technology that you're seeing that is absolutely must-have right now?
I'll start from the marketing perspective. So I definitely am still seeing advertised online, no walkthrough videos. I mean, if that's the absolute minimum that you need to be doing right now, you need to be doing that. We've all got phone devices, so we can do walkthrough videos, but I actually believe that they need to take it to that next level, Kylie, and invest in a 360 camera and use your platforms like your boxbrownie.com. They've just released their new platform. That's a non-subscription base, or you can go to the likes of Virtual Tools Creator with Tom there. He's got a fantastic product as well. He's a subscription base. So you've got two products in the market that offer an end result that's the same, but it's just how you want to work your business. You've got Matterport. So there's so many different elements to this. It's just what's going to work right for your business. But at a minimum now, I believe we need to have that. We need to be having floor plans, the best photos, walkthrough videos, 360 videos. But some still have not adapted to that, even with these changes. So I see that as a concern for the industry moving forward. If you're not willing to really take that small tech, I think that's really minor tech, right?
Yeah.
That's making.
That's not going to disrupt you. It's going to just improve you.
That's right. And people are sitting on their hands and not willing to go and buy a camera for $600. Think, wow, guys, come on. So that's the number one point. If you haven't made that change, you absolutely need to invest in one of those devices and really research the platform that's going to work best for you. The second thing is that you really need to get off of your server-based trust account programs.
Please, God, do that now.
Into the cloud. Now, for some businesses, that's a big change, but it doesn't have to be if you undertake the right training. You have everyone, on board with that in the initial phases. So it's not like going, I'm going to flick a light switch on today and all of a sudden I've got a new program. Have a plan with it and say, okay, If 1 July is D-Day, then we've got 3 months now to really embed this, understand that program, get it set up properly, make sure our data is correct, tell our clientele how it's going to work for them. Instead of on the day that it happens, everyone goes, oh, my God, I don't know how to use it.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It's failing.
I can't do it like I used to before. Where's my letters? It's this little freak out moment. It's like, that's because as an individual, you don't take the time as a property manager to actually undertake the training yourself. The principal has gone, I'm going to give you this great tool and resource so that you're more efficient in your job. Our clients love what we're doing from a service perspective. It reduces our expenses, right? So there's 3 positive things in this, and a property manager just doesn't, I don't care, I'll just look at that at the day it goes live. The next minute you go from rest to Property Me or Property Tree and you're like, oh, I don't know how to do anything. Oh, my God, how am I going to do my job today?
Yeah. Change management is something that I think we need to really work on as an industry. It's a skill that we really need to build some muscle in, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably the third tech now that, of course, we're seeing and it's obviously come out because of COVID-19, is around the digital virtual inspections. And I think that there's been a lot of our providers who have certainly released great tools around this. You need to research which one's going to work the most effective for you. If you're already utilising that program, then jump on board with what they're offering you to be able to continue to perform that task for your clients, both landlords and tenants from, that point of view. But I'm really actually liking that tech that's coming out, that electronic signing, Queensland brought out their One Touch for their tenancy signing. So, you don't specifically have to use DocuSign if you don't wish to, because they've built in something into their product now. So that sort of tech absolutely is going to make you so much more productive and be more efficient, get better results faster, and we've got to really take that on board.
Direct Connect makes moving easy for your customers by arranging connections to a wide range of services from electricity and gas to internet and pay TV. Their always-on guarantee ensures your customers' connections are top priority, and the industry-leading rewards program means agencies reap the benefits and value add too. Direct Connect will care for your customers with guaranteed connections that ensure their services will be connected on the day they move in, with a choice of a range of market-leading suppliers and peace of mind for everyone, with our call centre contacting customers within 24 hours of receiving their application. With local account managers who are experts in the industry and there to support your business, competitive commissions for every successful connection, and a one-of-a-kind rewards program. To make the right connect, find out how Direct Connect can make moving easy for you and easy for your customers. Visit agents.directconnect.com.au. Direct Connect makes moving easy. Property management's not the only industry that's been, disrupted by both all these changes and also COVID. What's happening in the training space?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Very different. Well,
Nervous laugh.
I just laugh. So a lot of the stuff that, or a lot of the consulting and training I was doing, pushing aside conference and workshop events, was face-to-face interaction in businesses. So it was really working with them on change management. It was supporting them through the transition of one program to another program. It was, auditing their rent roll and really looking at those operational inefficiencies where we, have they got the right structure? And you can't do that like this because I can't see how their business is operating. I can't sit and listen to conversations that every team member's having. And by me, sitting in the space where all the property managers were, I was able to do that and pick up good conversations, bad conversations, poor communication in regards to email templates, all of those things. So that's where things have really changed for me, because it's gone from non-face-to-face to now trying to still deliver a service training-wise remotely in this way, which is quite difficult. Even I've had people say, can you do a rent roll due diligence remotely? Well, I can look at the data, but there's things where you need to check in files. Like, you need to check that management agreement. Unless you got everything electronic, I can't do those types of tasks. So, yeah, there's definitely, from a training perspective, it's changed personally for me. So, I've just had to consider, how do I continue to scale my business and look at operational inefficiencies? And that's where I've really worked hard over the last month, and in conjunction with some of my clients, to build their workflows online. So, utilising Trello and or if they wanted to use the likes of Airtable. But most of them are starting with Trello because they haven't experienced it before. So it's the base level in. And we build all of their workflows for them online. Then I'm training them on that. I'm making sure all their communication's right through Property Me's or Property Trees, and really supporting them from that front, running their staff meetings for them. So I'm sort of diving in, being that support person for the principal a little bit more than probably on the grassroots with the PMs.
Right. Because I think there's still a role, isn't there, for a trainer or a coach or a consultant to be working with the team on even planning now how you're going to change in the next couple of months once you're through all of this, and working out a change program.
There absolutely is still a role for us in the industry, and it's just, I suppose, how each individual office wishes to see how we fit in. And I appreciate that there are some businesses that may have lost, income. So, right now for them, it's about keeping their staff on board, and maybe it's not about, engaging the services of us. However, I still actually feel it's very valid, because we can help them then look at, well, how do we restructure once this is over? How do we make sure we're keeping all of your team members busy if maybe income's, less? And yes, there's all of these government incentives, but you are right. There's still a very important role for trainers, and for you to have that coach. Sometimes it's just a matter of venting, Kylie, and you can have a bad day during this, like I said in the beginning. I have some principals who just call and say, oh, my God, Kasey, I just don't know today. I'm really overwhelmed. And so I'll just go, that's fine. In a brief, tell me what's happened. How about I jump in? I'll organise a quick meeting with the team for the end of the day, and we can all finish on an amazing note. And so just having someone who could just do that for 10 minutes is just even valuable right now.
Yeah, yeah. So Kasey, what do you think the next 5 years holds for property management?
I think that the way we're doing things probably now, or how COVID-19 has forced us to make some positive, I think really positive changes. I don't think these changes have been negative for our industry. In fact, I think we should have been doing them, a long time ago. I think that that's what will be the new norm for us. I do believe that we'll move away from office fronts for property management, and it will allow that flexibility to work from home. There will be still those accountability levels, of course, but because everything's online, we will be able to be more transparent across what we're doing. I feel sometimes there's an element now where we can maybe still hide things and put it under the carpet and, move it to the corner, and pretend we did it, but we didn't really do it. Whereas once we're all in the cloud and everything's online, it's very transparent. So I feel that's what's going to happen and will continue to happen. It's going to see those, as you indicated before, that aren't willing to really go on this ride. They'll move out of the industry, whether that's staff, business owners, etc. So it's going to allow for more opportunities for those who really want to be successful in this position.
Yeah, and it really is sort of the shakedown, isn't it, where we get to test and learn about what works in tech and adopt some of the best tech and then match it when we're all allowed to meet again with some of the best of the human practices and come up with something much stronger, right?
Yeah, and I think it's that collaboration that will need to certainly happen. I don't think there'll be conferences, etc., for the rest of this year. We've probably all come to terms with that, but we'll all be itching to get to one in 2021.
Conference attendance going to go through the roof in 2021.
But what's going to happen is exactly that. Everyone, I think that's what it will be, right? What did everyone do in 2020? What tech did you use? How did it work? Why not? How? Then what human touch did you have? How do we look at bringing that all together to be creating even better systems and processes for our property management divisions or the industry as a whole? I think that's what we'll probably see at conference events, that really looking into the future. And those that will attend will be those that really want to continue to move their businesses in that way. Those that don't will always sit on their hands in regards to this type of thing.
Yeah. And so, look, it would be remiss if we had a conversation about tech in real estate and didn't just touch briefly on AI. Is AI a step too far at the moment for most property managers, or what's your view around AI and property management?
Oh, look, I don't think so. And I think it's how we view AI, right? There's certain levels of automation that's already in play in some of our programs that we're using. I think it's what tasks or what elements of AI is potentially, built in. So, I would know that if I was a BDM right now in the industry and I could have the likes of Rita, with the fantastic Sarah Bell. I just absolutely love that lady.
Yep.
But if I could have that in the background and it was just pushing me okay, you've got to call this person today, and I didn't have to remember. And, there was all of that, those extra elements that were happening behind the scenes, and all I physically needed to do was pick the phone up and confirm that appointment, or, physically talk to that client. I do believe I would be far more successful as a BDM than what I was, back 10 years ago even. So I think it's as to what stage. I definitely think growth, from a growth perspective right now, it really plays a part. But if then we can look at the automation inside of some of our programs, because I still know people aren't using the automation inside of Property Me. They've got all of their emails sitting in hold, and it goes to an outbox, and at the end of the day they go and send them all. It wasn't built. It wasn't built for that reason. You shouldn't use the program if that's how you're going to use it, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's probably more so that property managers don't really understand it.
We need to learn to manage the exceptions rather than trying to manage all the rules, don't we? Yeah, which comes into that change management conversation.
Yeah. So I think, looking at all of what you use and going, right, what can we automate? What tasks do we still physically need to do as people? And, it's that I probably think people should really sit down and do. Then get in contact with the likes of Sarah and say, hey, what can Rita do to help us? This is where we think we need to automate in our business. Can Rita support that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Kasey McDonald, it's been fantastic talking to you. All the best getting through COVID-19. Big shout out to everyone. You need training more than ever, and you need coaching more than ever at this time. It's not the time to scale back. It's the time to lean in. So thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. And you as well. Stay safe.
So that was Kasey McDonald, and I really enjoyed this conversation and the exploration of the issues that are affecting property management right now. It has been an extraordinarily challenging time, and despite the fact that we're all pretty exhausted and just want to rest, now is actually the time when we need to lean into the changes that are being demanded of us. We still have a little bit to go. We are always at risk of delaying change in our business because we think the time is not right. But the time to change is never perfect. And you never know when a global pandemic or something else major, completely out of your control, is going to sideswipe you. So the best we can do is to get our own house in order so that we address everything we can control and that we're well positioned for the external events that we can't control. Now, if you're a PM working in a legacy business, do whatever you can now as we come out of COVID-19 to make your principal understand the importance of upgrading property management inside your agency. It's my really passionate belief that highly capable property management teams are going to be the heart and soul of real estate agencies over the next few years. They are the powerhouses of sales leads. They will drive new revenue streams and excellent customer experiences for renters and investors. But they can only do that if they're working at optimum efficiency and peak performance. So PMs, you are not an add-on to the sales function of the business. It's time for us all to lean in and step up. And as Kasey said, it's our time to shine. So now, if you have enjoyed this episode of the PropTech Podcast, I would love you to tell your friends or drop me a line either via email, LinkedIn, or on our Facebook page. You can follow this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and Apple iTunes. I'd like to thank my audio support, Charlie Hollins, and this week, Sam Hollins, the fabulous Jill Escudero, and our sponsors, Direct Connect, making moving easy, and Home Prezzo, turning your data into amazing marketing content. And don't forget to check out the free content Home Prezzo's offering to agents to support your digital marketing. So thanks everyone. Stay safe until next week. Keep on PropTeching.